Welcome into 76ers Now by Chat Sports. Jake Chipper here with you today. And on the show, round 2 of the 2025 NBA draft is tonight. So we're going to look ahead at some round 2 draft targets for the 76ers. Guys, they could take the 35th overall selection in the NBA draft. That's the 5th pick in the second round. And some pretty good players that fell out of round 1 to round 2. I think the Sixers could really add an impact piece to this rotation with that 35th overall pick. So we're going to look at some of the top guys available. But before we do, a reminder, we will be live tonight for round 2 of the NBA draft. We were live for round 1 last night. It was a great time. Shout out to all the real ones who joined us for that live show. We're running it back tonight. We'll be live 30 minutes before the start of round 2 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. So subscribe, turn on your notifications, and join us for another great time of analysis and looking at who the Sixers do take at number 35. In case you missed it, and just for a refresher, with that 3rd overall pick, the Sixers did take VJ Edgecombe. A couple videos up on the channel already where myself and Chase Sr. did a deep dive into VJ, what he'll bring to Philadelphia. We ended up giving that pick a B grade, so check those videos out for sure if you haven't. But I am excited for what he can bring to Philly with his athleticism, with his defensive ability. I think he'll fit in nicely next to Tyrese Maxey, although Ace Bailey was there for the taking. But VJ, though, I think does project to be a good NBA player for the 76ers. So let's get to these round 2 targets, starting with Maxime Raynaud, the center out of Stanford. This is a guy I 100% thought was going to go in the first round. I did some mock drafts where the Sixers traded back, got a pick in the mid-20s, and I would take Raynaud in the mid-20s if I were Philadelphia, but he did not end up going. And if he does fall to 35, I think he'll be a player that will go very, very early in this second round. Sixers got to run that card up to the podium. 7 foot without shoes. Maxime Raynaud probably would have been the ACC Player of the Year if Cooper Flagg didn't exist. He is an effective paint defender, also grown his perimeter shot, and he is pretty dynamic offensively. He can run the pick and pop game, knock down his open threes. He moves pretty well and a good feel as a passer. So again, dynamic offensively. He can even put the ball on the floor a little bit. Does have to develop down low in the post. He's a little bit frail, 7 foot, but only 236 pounds. So probably will cause him some issues early on in his career. Definitely got to get stronger, but look, you can add strength when you get into the NBA. Really a walking 20-10 this past season for Stanford. Again, he can shoot the 3, shot about 35% this past year, an absolute animal on the glass, but does need to improve a little bit on the defensive end of the floor. Something that, you pair up, you think with the Sixers center rotation right now, obviously you have Joel Embiid, but I'm looking at these backups. I'm looking long-term. Adem Bona, a very good athlete, very good defensively. I think Maxime Raynaud, with his skill set offensively and that ability to shoot the ball, but also be a good passer and play around the rim, it's an intriguing skill set for a big man that would fit in nicely with this Sixers center core. So if he's there, I'm absolutely taking him. Another player that I was shocked did not get drafted in round 1 is Rasheer Fleming, the forward out of St. Joe's. And you want to talk about 3-and-D wings in the NBA, one of the most valuable archetypes there is. To me, that's exactly what Rasheer Fleming is, and he does it at 6'8", 6'9" with shoes, with a 7'5" wingspan. I mean, that is just freakish stuff. Something like a Jalen Williams, right, with those crazy long arms. Put up about 15 and 8.5 this past season with St. Joe's while shooting 53% from the field and 39% from 3. Also shot it well at the rim. A very physical defender. Again, we talk about 3-and-D. He can really do both. Should be able to guard 3 through 5. You can see his block and steal numbers, about 1.5 per game for each, and still putting up about 15 points a game. Again, just a really physical defender. Now, you're not going to ask him to put the ball on the floor and go get you a bucket, and he doesn't really get to the free throw line because of that. But that's not what you're asking him to do, right? In the second round, you need guys, and the Sixers, especially on this roster, could really use that big wing who can knock down his open threes, especially if he's shooting them at a near 40% clip and be a physical defender. You could come away in this draft with VJ Edgecombe and Rasheer Fleming, 2 tremendous defenders. Man, all of a sudden, the Sixers team, the Sixers wing defense would be a whole lot better. So those 2 especially, Maxime Raynaud, Rasheer Fleming, I expect them to go early. Teams might try trading up for them. The Sixers would be lucky to land either of those guys at 35. First, I want to say and give a big shout out to the real ones here on today's show. We picked up over 100 subs on yesterday's live show. Can we beat that number here tonight? Of course, we'll be live for round 2. I want to see if the real ones can get us over that mark. You will not regret it, I promise. Sixers coverage all year long, especially during this busiest time of the NBA offseason. Now, before we get to these other names here for my round 2 draft targets, VJ Edgecombe jerseys are available already through our friends at Fanatics. If you go to chatsports.com/V-J, you see a little dash in between the V and the J there. You can get your hands on a VJ jersey now. I'm going to be getting myself my own VJ Edgecombe jersey, that's for sure. He won't be wearing 00 more than likely. We'll see what number he picks. He was 7 in college. Of course, Kyle Lowry wore number 7, and he's looking to come back for one more year. Kyle Lowry, man, give up the number. Give up the number. Honestly, just retire at this point. But if you want to keep playing, let the Rook wear number 7, man. Get your VJ Edgecombe jerseys today. Again, chatsports.com/V-J. I can have that link in the comments and description of today's show, so you can just click on it real easy. Go to Fanatics and get yourself a VJ Edgecombe jersey now. Target number 3, another big man. There's really 2 centers at this spot that I've been talking about for a while. It was Maxime Raynaud and now Ryan Kalkbrenner. Another guy, really, it's these top 3 guys are all guys that I thought would be end of the first round picks for sure. And 3 guys, or at least 2 in Kalkbrenner and Raynaud, that I've been talking about a lot here on the show. And Kalkbrenner, a little different than Raynaud, more of your typical big man at 7'1", 257 pounds. Get this, 4-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year at Creighton for 5 seasons. Just an absolute beast around the rim with his size, with his 7'6" wingspan. He really dominates the interior defensively, and he's a great rim finisher as well. So again, a very prototypical old school style center. He did shoot it a little bit from 3 in college. I don't really think that's going to translate to the NBA, but it's certainly an aspect of his game where if that does come along, then all of a sudden he has a little bit of a higher ceiling than some are projecting. Again, I don't really think that 3-point shot's going to end up being a big part of his game. Now, does he need to find some better play strength? He is big and he is physical, but sometimes doesn't play up to that strength, unfortunately, and just a little slow with his feet defensively. So on switches, if he ever has to step out, guard the perimeter, not ideal. He'll probably play mostly drop coverage, but again, you're talking about a guy who did dominate defensively in college. Some scouts do have questions if that defense can translate to the NBA level with his limited athleticism. But look, I'll take the chances on a guy who showed the ability to be an absolute elite rim protector, which the Sixers very much struggled with this past season. Another name that has been linked to the Sixers a good amount at this 35 spot, even before the draft started, and especially now that he has fallen to the second round, Adou Thiero, the wing out of Arkansas. You want to talk about a guy who can attack the rim and fit well within the confines of an offense. Thiero absolutely does fit that. Didn't test the combine, but you watch him play. He is explosive. He is an athlete, and he knows his role very well. And that's why I would love him on the Sixers team, where you got the stars. You got the guys that can score. You need the guys that can do everything else. And he can cut to the rim at a very high level. Another elite slasher, just like VJ Edgecombe is, and just does project as a high-level defender with his length, with his quickness, someone that, again, can fit right in with the rest of your squad. Now, problem with Thiero, and a problem that I have, and I would have with this pick, is the lack of a three-point shot. A career 28% three-point shooter, and just wasn't able to knock down catch and shoot threes at a high level. And although he's a good driver, very much a straight line driver, doesn't get very creative either. But we're talking second round here. You want to get a guy who's super athletic, who can fit in well with the rest of your roster. To me, like, if you can't get a Rasheer Fleming and you still want to add another wing to this roster, I think Adou Thiero makes a lot of sense as someone who can really play off the ball, make those smart cuts, and maybe the shot comes along, but even if it doesn't, you can bank on that defensive ability. Finally, let me get to Noah Penda, another guy who was generating some first-round buzz earlier on in the process, fell off a little bit, the forward out of France. Big swing skill for Noah Penda is going to be if that three-point shot does develop. Kind of up and down, does have some upside. The release point is something you can work with, right? The shot looks good, but can he get it to fall in the NBA? Can he not? Now, at 6'8", 225 with a 6'11 wingspan, that frame really is ready. Should be able to make an impact defensively right away. And a good passer as well. Not someone who going to run your offense by any means. You're going to give the ball to and tell him to run the pick and roll. But, in the flow of an offense, does make smart passes, which I know it doesn't sound like you're saying a lot, but another thing the Sixers team struggled with was just making the right passes. Now, again, another player who's not going to put it on the deck, not going to create for himself or others really all that much, and not a great athlete either, but another player here that you're looking at the tools defensively, you're looking at the size and the wingspan, someone who I think should be ready to contribute right away on that end. And the Sixers are looking for guys, I think, that can play defense on their perimeter, right? They went after VJ Edgecombe in the first round. With how disappointing Paul George was last year, will Kelly Oubre be back? We're not so sure. Gershon Yabusele seems like he's on the way out, right? You got Quentin Grimes, you got VJ in there. You need more guys that can defend the perimeter. And I think any of Fleming, Thiero, or Penda on the wing would be great fits to be those strong defensive wings for you. But of course, same thing for Penda. Does that three-point shot start to fall? 5 targets coming from me that I think the Sixers should look to go after at 35. 5 targets. They have the 5th pick in the second round. So theoretically, they should be able to get one of these guys on the list. Drop me a name. Who is your number 1 target? One of the guys I mentioned today. Maybe someone else I didn't mention. Show me you know ball. Get down in the comment section. One more reminder to hit that sub button here on the show. Very busy time of the year. We have the draft now. We'll have free agency coming up soon. Anytime the Sixers make any kind of move, we got you covered right here on 76ers Now. So hit that sub button, and we'll catch you tonight for round 2 of the 2025 NBA Draft.